This subject did not lose his composure once. That is what made it so difficult to watch.
Welcome to Displaced. I'm your host, Mara Saleh, and that, of course, is Dr. Henrik Voss, the man leading these incredible and often unsettling temporal experiments. Henrik, today's file is number 13, The Most Reasonable Man. An Irish scholar of the 13th century displaced into the busiest building he had ever encountered, and completely unwilling to let that show.
He would object to the word unwilling. He would say he simply had no reason to lose composure.
Was he right?
By his own framework, yes. That was the problem. His name is Cormac, 56 years old. A scholar and professional scribe, he travels between monasteries copying manuscripts, teaching, correcting. He's been doing it for 30 years. He knows a great many things, and he is not in the habit of letting this go unacknowledged.
Where did he arrive?
Dublin Airport. Peak October morning. The full sensory weight of that environment, 11 million passengers a year, all apparently concentrated in one terminal, arrived all at once. His immediate response was to fold his hands behind his back and begin looking at the building.
That's it?
That was his thinking posture. He folded his hands behind his back and began a systematic survey of the premises. Architecture first. He identified it correctly as a large hall designed for purposeful transit. He noted the glass, which he filed without explanation. Then the people, moving with intent, carrying objects with wheels.
The wheeled suitcases.
He observed them for some time. Then he moved on. He then approached a departures board and watched it update for 2 full minutes. From his behavior, he studied it, nodded once, moved on. What we observed was consistent with someone who had placed it in a category and continued. Whatever conclusion he reached, it didn't stop him.
What about the coffee kiosk?
He approached it. He examined the cups, lifted one, assessed it, set it back down with a nod. Whatever he made of it, it satisfied him. He moved on.
And then he just walked the whole terminal?
At a measured, scholarly pace. He walked the full length of the departures hall and sat down at a gate. He looked out the window at the aircraft on the tarmac. He watched a plane taxi for 45 seconds. He folded his hands in his lap. He watched it again. His expression did not change.
What was he actually thinking?
This is my interpretation of what we observed. He did not brake. He did not run. He assessed, categorized, and continued for 10 full minutes in an environment that would have stopped most people in their tracks. What I believe that required was a decision. That whatever this was, it was not going to be the thing that took the composure from him.
His identity.
Everything that made him who he was, 30 years of being the most learned man in the room, was bound up in his ability to meet the world with reason. Losing that composure would have been losing himself. The composure wasn't courage. It was, I think, refusal.
And the plane?
The plane was the problem. He had found some way to move past almost everything else. The plane he sat with for 4 minutes without moving. Whatever he was working through, he was not done with it when the equipment ran.
Did he find an answer?
No. He left mid-thought. For a man with his relationship to open questions, I suspect that was the worst part of it. Not the incomprehensible building. The problem he couldn't close.
What happened when he came back?
He reappeared in the scriptorium mid-thought. Same chair, hands folded exactly as they were. His student, who had not noticed him leave, said his expression when he came back was like a man who had just thought of something he needed to write down.
Did he write it down?
He went back to correcting the Latin. He finished the session. He is a professional. The Latin needed correcting.
He just continued.
He just continued. I found that more unsettling than if he'd been distressed. The composure held all the way through.
What happened after?
In the 18 months following his displacement, He produced 6 manuscripts on the nature of the knowable and the unknowable in the created world. His central argument, which he arrived at apparently suddenly, without any visible developmental arc in his prior work, was that the failure of existing categories to contain something is not evidence against that thing's existence. It's evidence against the adequacy of the categories.
That's ahead of his time.
Considerably. His contemporaries found it unusual and somewhat unsettling. Historians of medieval philosophy now consider it remarkable for the period. 6 manuscripts from a man who spent 30 years copying other people's ideas. All of it traces to 45 seconds watching a plane he couldn't name.
The failure of the framework was the productive event.
Not the framework. The failure. He built something from the crack in it that lasted 8 centuries, which may or may not justify how the crack got there.
Was he harmed by it?
He was left with an open question he couldn't resolve for the rest of his life. Whether that constitutes harm depends entirely on what you think of open questions.
I think for a man who has built his entire identity around knowing things.
It produced 6 manuscripts and a philosophical legacy that has outlasted him by 8 centuries. I have considered whether it was harm, seriously and at length, and I cannot reach a verdict.
He spent the rest of his life working on a problem you put in front of him.
He spent the rest of his life working on the most interesting problem he had ever encountered. I am genuinely not certain he would have framed it as harm.
You're comfortable with that uncertainty.
I'm not comfortable with it, but I've learned to work with it. He walked into that airport with a complete picture of the world and came back with a crack running through the middle of it. What he built from the crack is the record. The crack itself, I don't know. I still don't know.
The composure held. The framework didn't.
The composure was the wrong thing to be proud of. He was proud of it anyway. I find I don't entirely blame him. He watched a plane for 45 seconds and could not account for it. And then he spent the rest of his life writing about the difference between a thing that cannot be explained and a thing that cannot be understood. Those are not the same thing. I think he had always known it technically. The distinction is there in every classical text he had ever copied. But the plane made him mean it, made it real in a way 30 years of manuscript work never quite had. The framework failed. The man didn't. And from the failure he built something that may well outlast all of us. I find that worth sitting with, even if I'm still not sure it excuses how it happened.